Brent, welcome to the Tales of Leadership podcast, brother. How you doing?
Great. How about you, Joshua?
I can't complain. I was telling you right after this, or right before we jumped on, as I went on a run. It's snowing for the first time in Northern Virginia, at least for this year since we've moved. So I just got going on a run in my tank top because I was super excited about trying to do like cold therapy. I was like, so I can go on a run and still do cold therapy versus doing an ice plunge today. And it was fun, but my fingers are definitely feeling it.
You should come here. It's below zero, and we had 9 inches of snow. You fit right in.
Oh man, I don't know about that. I did an ice bath yesterday, and it was I think 32 degrees. I just started this too right at the Christmas, so it's not something I've been doing religiously. And I was like, oh, it is cold. Any much colder than this, I don't know if I can do that. So I think a great place to start, Brent, is just take the time to kind of introduce yourself to the listeners. Who are you?
Yeah, my name is Brent Pohlman. I'm a CEO at Midwest Laboratories. And last year, I wrote a book, Leaders Look Within, and I'm kind of promoting that a little bit because I think we absolutely need more leadership and more leaders across the board. And it's just been wonderful for me to see at home and at work leadership principles take effect, not only in my life but in the lives of others. And I couldn't be more happier at this moment. It's the way things are really happening in a world that's full of chaos.
Yeah.
We can persevere if we're at a good place with our leadership.
I think a great place that I always love starting off is just setting the bounds of how you define leadership, and that's the beauty about being in podcasting is I can talk to people who have predominantly military backgrounds, people who have more of a faith background or an entrepreneurial background. You're unique in a way is that you're deeply rooted in your faith, but you are also a CEO that a business I think that you inherited from your father, which is really I think inspiring in a way. How do you define leadership?
It's a great question. I think everyone needs to find leadership for themselves. I didn't realize how personal that is.
Yeah.
For me, it was really digging deep, and everyone says they have a why about them. I thought I did, but I really didn't. I didn't go deep enough. And it really took some people to really pull that out of me. And once you find that and you start to live it, things really go in a different place and you become such a better person. But it takes time, and each person has to, again, that's the premise for the book is every person. I'm not one to tell you, here's the 12 steps to effective leadership.
Yeah.
Everybody has to find that themselves. And I think that was true for me too, because I tried to find it in books and do all that stuff. But once you find it and live it, it's very powerful. Absolutely very powerful.
I think that that's a beautiful nugget. Just kind of starting off is that you can't find it in books. And 2 years ago, I started this journey of where, hey, I'm dedicating, myself to being the best leader that I can because I'm active duty in the military and I have the honor to serve at the capacity that I am now and continue to lead and serve the country and the men and women that wear the uniform. And I started gravitating towards books. And I was reading all of these books and they're like, yeah, this is all great. But there was a quote that always kind of resonated back to me I had a battalion commander tell me after we were in the military, 8 up is not a good thing. After we were 8 up on a live fire exercise, he's like, deeds, not words. And he just walked away. And I think when we read books is that we hear all the right things, but the environment that we find ourselves in life is not a book.
Right. Exactly. No, I would say that. And for me, it was really the why and how. And the why and how was I'm a person of faith who coaches people up and leads from the heart. So I needed something actionable. And when I say that every single day, then I live it every single day. So the why and how go together. And that was really key for me.
I love that, man. So start off with where your leadership journey started. Where do you think that started?
Well, I think it started. So as you said, I'm a second generation owner, Midwest Laboratories. Quick background, we do analytical testing in 3 verticals: human health, animal health, and agriculture and environmental. We have 300 employees. We do a lot of testing to get results back to people in 3 to 5 days. So we're like a production lab.
Mm,
When I took, basically, when I came back in 2005, I had to really work with my dad and his partners. And that was really a hard struggle for 10 years. I didn't know if I was going to make it through that piece, only because I wanted to see so much change. And my dad kept telling me I really needed to learn the business more and more. And he was right. And
yeah.
then when his partners retired, and it was just my father and I, that was a whole another few years or period where I wanted to take from my dad everything that he had learned and used throughout the business, because he had built a profitable business. You couldn't,
Yeah.
it was amazing. And then how do we take this and move it into the future? And my dad finally, he did retire in 2020 at the age of 80. And so for the past 3 years, we have just, again, experienced tremendous growth. We went from 110 employees to 300. We have, our revenue has increased every single year. And I really attribute it to having strong values and a really strong leadership team in place to facilitate that and really build a better culture, build a culture that is one focused on values and one that services our own employees as well as our clients. And when you do those things, again, if you invest in people, you will see a much bigger return than any technology or anything out there, from what I found.
Mm. That's such an interesting point, is that your father created this Midwest Laboratories successful company in itself. I think 1975 is when the company stood up. Impressive. A lot of entrepreneurs fail. I think like the stat is like 3 or 4 times before you're finally successful at some point. So that kudos to you. That is absolutely amazing. And one thing that I was really curious about, how do you take your father's vision for his company and then build upon that to continue to grow? Because I don't get an opportunity to, with your specific leadership background, and I'm very curious of how you did that, staying true to what your father built, but kind of adding your flavor to it and incrementally growing.
Yeah, and I'm still working through. I wouldn't say that I have that all figured out by any means. I think you really, again, have to really look and see what worked, what still works today, because a lot of
Mm,
what worked in the, I'll say, the 70s, the 80s does
yeah.
not work today. And and the other one I will say is my dad was very much into the day to day all the time. So I was really in the day to day from 2015 to 2020. It wasn't really till about 2019 my leadership team came to me and said, "Hey, we need you to get out of the day to day. We are growing so fast. We need someone to be visionary and really go after a new campus and expand if we really want to grow this company." And they were so right. I watched my dad up until the age of 80 stay in the day to day. And some people, and again, I can't argue it was very successful, but at the same time, there's just so many changes. And I think COVID even accelerated those changes a lot, that you better be flexible. You better have a trustworthy team. You better have all these things in place if you're really going to succeed. So I think the pace or the acceleration of things has gotten even faster. And they were so right. I needed to be out of the day to day. I had to trust my people. I
Mhm.
was becoming a roadblock when I was in the operations. And I think that was the piece that was really the biggest learning piece for me, is get out, let your people take over. If they know that they have, or you have their back and they have yours, you will go further faster than anything, like I said. So it's been a wonderful journey, hard, but yes. And I learned a lot. I made a lot of mistakes, but I continue to learn every single day with this team.
And I think that's a beautiful nugget as well, is that failure is inevitable. And I always think of it from the concept of an engineering background, which I'm not an engineer by trade, but I do have a master's degree in the topic. But I'll say with the caveat, if you want me to do engineering work for you, we will fail. That's not where my strength lies at. But I always talk about the concept of fail fast and fail small.
Mhm.
That's the whole, that's leadership in a nutshell, failing fast and failing small, and then incrementally improving every single time, so we're becoming better and better. And I love that you have the vulnerability to share that, because that's the truth. about leadership and entrusting your people. And there's a concept that you shared that is absolutely beautiful, and it shows the growth of your company, is that when it first stood up, you had to be in the fight, in the trenches with the team, making sure that the work was getting done and that the mission was being achieved. But as you're seeing growth, you have to separate yourself more of a strategic level lens. And then General Petraeus shared this, and it always sticks with me, the 4 pillars of kind of like strategic leadership. You create the big idea, the vision. You communicate it clearly to your team. Then you set key metrics to make sure there's a thread that's keeping everyone towards that vision. And then you continually revisit, are we achieving what we said we're going to do, or do we need to tailor it slightly? That was a beautiful definition, and I wanted to make sure that I highlighted that.
No, that's and thank you for the additional comments there, because that's exactly, as you were saying that, I was like, yes, that's exactly what was happening, and it doesn't happen over a week. It takes time. I mean,
Yeah.
I make it sound like this is really fast, but it is a hard. I mean, you've got to put that. You got to have that really strong culture in place, and that takes time, and that takes trust, and that takes reinforcing. Hence, the coaching people up. You've got to coach people up all the time, because it's so easy to fall back into the old ways. So easy.
One question that I'm curious about, because you said you grew, I think from like 110 to 300 employees, somewhere around there. As you grow, how are you ensuring that you're hiring the right people for the right job? What's that vetting process look like?
That is tough.
Yeah.
I will just say, like, it's. I think right now we have really gone, even in our interviews, is what values does this person bring? Do they have
Mm,
strong value set? You can have all the knowledge in the world, but if you don't want to be part of a team, and you don't want to, and your values are just not quite aligned or there, it's not going to work, and that's okay. And that's what we've even said. We'll figure this out, and if it doesn't work, let's help you find the next position or the next job. Maybe that skill set works somewhere else, or better suited for a different place. But it is a lot of vetting. We try to do that. We try to do a lot of on the job experience, tasks as well. But really, it comes down to working as a team, because that's the only way we're going to get the work done, is if everyone on the team really buys in to, as you say, the goals and the objectives of the culture. And I think having monthly meetings, we bring all of our employees together once a month. Even though we're operational all the time, they
I love
can
that.
come in person, or they can watch it on Teams, or they can record it. But we want people to know what's happening in the company, that what they're doing not only affects the lives of others outside of here, food safety, water safety, uh, soil, crops, they're making a difference, but also for them, they need to understand that their work is valued, and that they are valued as a person, people first. So that's the only way that we're going to succeed, is people first in our company.
It fires me up. It really does. Every time that I talk to like a civilian leadership in the military, we do the exact same thing. And it's awesome to see that in the military we call them all hands. So like once a month we bring everyone together and we talk about, hey, what did we achieve as a team? And I think that's just so important, because if you can't connect that emotional alignment, be like, hey, what are we doing, head, heart, creating that intrinsic motivation to actually go do the work, then we lose our people somewhere along the journey. It almost creates like burnout or just this hustle culture that we're always doing work. But when we take the time to just show our team what we've accomplished, I think that's where it really kind of sets in. And then you are creating that culture and trust of excellence, which Midwest Labs probably has. And that's amazing.
Yeah, and I'll give you another one that kind of helps us with the recruiting piece. And this happened last year, and I'm still blown away that we could do this. Benefits have always been part of our total compensation, and health
Mm,
insurance. Right now, if uh, you're single and not married, your insurance is 100% paid for. Health insurance, that's unheard
wow,
of. And
that's amazing.
yeah, last year with all the healthcare costs, our healthcare costs went up almost 200%. And we said we had to do something. We're self-insured, and what we did, our brokers kept telling us, you got to raise deductibles if you're going to meet the cost. You got to keep, the employees got to pay more, families have to pay more. We said, we don't like that. There's got to be a better way. So what
Mm.
we are doing, hopefully starting next week, we have opened a medical office on site for our employees where they can come with their families. We'll have doctors there 3 times a
Wow.
week, and they'll provide the care at a cash price, because we are going to beat this stupid medical insurance piece, because there's no incentive out there to bring costs down.
No.
If you work through the insurance company, you work through brokers, everyone wants a piece of the pie. The only way you do is if you own it yourself and you say, here's what we're going to pay, here's how, and you find a company that works with. So we always look for like-minded companies outside our industry. And we found one here that's going to work with us on that. And I am so excited about that. Most people get excited about the business. I get more excited if I can help the employees in some way, somehow. I think this is a real big achievement for our group.
I have never heard that before, but that's just a testament to what you just said, people first. And in the military, we say that too, like people first, mission always. Because the greatest national treasure that we have, and I genuinely mean this, is the men and women of this country. Think about, like, of all the innovative capability that's happened over the last decade. Well, it started in the US, and it's because we've created that culture of trust and excellence, but we've stayed curious. And when you can take care of your people and you give them that latitude, it allows those values to really just take root and then blossom, which that's amazing, man. And I love that because I think in this world now, there's a toxic level of capitalism. And don't get me wrong, I think that that's a great thing. But I think there's a toxic level of it where everyone quits viewing people as a person. There's a quote out there from Joseph Stalin, and I shouldn't quote him on my podcast, but it said, "What's the difference between 1 and a million?" And talking about people. He's like, it's just a number. So that's the key thing there, is not to allow your heart to harden when you take authority, title, position, and view people as a person. That's a mother, that's a father, that's a husband, that's a son. They have something outside of this work. And are we helping them achieve their full potential? Not just at work, but also in life. Because I felt like that's a role that you and I both share, both in the civilian world and the military world, is I want to help people become the best version possible that they can be. Because if that's the case, you're going to get a better quality of work out of them. And at the end of the day, you're going to make a bigger impact.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And Joshua, I think you said something right there that, and maybe you helped me. I think I got this from the military, but one thing as a leader that I've tried last year, I'm still trying again this year. I want to learn every single name of every employee, to your
Boom.
point.
Yeah.
If you can call somebody by their name, it makes it
Yeah.
personal. Absolutely. And I know the military does that. I believe does that so well. But if I don't know the names, if I say, hey, you, or, you, or think about it. I went in the
Yeah.
corporate world, I went probably weeks or months without even hearing my name being called. But when you hear your name being called, you stop in your tracks wherever you're at,
Yeah.
because somebody is taking the time to get your attention.
Yeah. Like, hey, that person cares about me. They took the time to at least remember me. One of the things that I would do when I was in company command, I was in charge of my first command, 150 soldiers, second command, 250 soldiers. My wife thought it was crazy, and everyone else thought it was crazy on my team. But I wrote a handwritten letter to every one of those soldiers, either mothers or spouses. If a brand new private joins, well, they're probably not married. So I write a letter back to their mother. And we have this group, it's called a family readiness group, an FRG. And it's an outside organization that takes care of the families if we were to deploy or something like that. And that group on Facebook grew from, I think, like 20 to over 350 people in a relatively quick time. And we became like the biggest, most successful in terms of fundraising and taking care of soldiers on Fort Polk. I can't remember what the new name of the base is, but it's because I just took a little bit of time to genuinely care, put my personal touch on something to show that, hey, yes, I'm your company commander. Yes, the decisions that I make are probably not going to be popular. You're not always going to be like me, but I care about you, and let me prove it with deeds, not words.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I really like that. I think there's something to be said about that. The power of that is really, it is something that more, again, as a leader, I wish I would have known or embraced even sooner, because there's a lot of good things that can happen from that.
One thing that I would love now to kind of just dive into is how faith has impacted your leadership, and where did you develop that deep level of faith? Because I watch you on Insta or LinkedIn all the time, every morning, super cold. You're out there just inspiring me.
Yeah, it really happened as a result, sadly to say, when my mother passed away in
Mm,
2017 from cancer. I'll never forget the day I went for a walk that day, and I was like, I need to be more intentional about my faith. I had no
wow.
idea what I was saying, but I just really said it almost as a prayer and said, I need to be more intentional because I knew my mom was a lady of prayer and she had journals. She has hundreds of journals. My sister and I are going through them now of all the prayers that she wrote down for all of
Wow.
her friends and all of her people at church. And I'll never forget that. And I thought, that this is where it starts is with prayer. And then on her birthday, my dad and I went into this coffee shop in Ohio. I didn't want my dad to be alone that first year. So we were at a conference. We walk into this coffee shop, and there on the wall it said, "How can I pray for you?" And it was this big chalkboard. And
Mm.
I thought, "Oh wow!" I looked at my dad and I said, "I think Mom's trying to tell us something." And so, if you walk into our main office, you will see a prayer wall on the side because prayer is not evasive. Anybody can write something. Our customers, our clients, our employees, and we pray for those petitions or those requests because again I think it just shows again that the care that and faith, when we have faith and we pray for each other and have each other's backs, that says something about a company.
That is, I think you being openly forward with your faith in a company tells me a lot about you. Tells me that you're unreasonable in a good way. That, hey, this is important to me. It's a core value that I have. I want this to be part of my company because it is who I am. And I'm going to be unapologetic in a way, but I'm going to do it in a way that's authentic. I don't care what your religion is. Let me pray for you. Let our team pray for you so we can get through that hardship. I love that, man. Prayer wall. I might borrow that.
Absolutely, you can steal it. No, it is, and again, I'm not here to force my beliefs on anybody, but I can. Again, you can as a leader, you can support and coach people, but absolutely is a core value. Faith is definitely a core value, personal core value of mine.
You're also the president, and I'm gonna mess this name up. The Lectus chapter?
So Legatus, yeah, it is
Like, okay, I
Legatus.
was close.
Yeah, no, Legatus is an interesting group. It's made up of Catholic business owners,
Yeah.
their spouses, and we meet once a month. And it is just amazing to come together with other owners. And I think that's probably the biggest thing. When can you be in the room with other CEOs from various industries and with your wife too, and
Mm.
just have just a normal conversation? It's not about money, it's not about the business. You're just there to support each other. And you listen to a speaker once a month,
Yeah.
gathered together. I think it's just a wonderful thing. It's been a wonderful organization for my wife and I to be along to.
I think when you surround yourself with people like that too, that stretch and push you to be a better version of yourself, that's what I crave most in life, at least where I'm at now, is it's not about the number of friends that I have, I guess in a bad way of saying is like I don't care about the quantity of friends that I have. What I care about is the quality. Who do I allow in my life that is going to stretch me to help me grow into a better version of myself so I can show up in the world and I can be a better version and bring light, which I love that quote from Matthew. That's like one of my favorite quotes in the Bible. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yep.
So another thing that I would love to get in on social media, like you are super active in LinkedIn, so I know you probably have an amazing morning routine. And one of the breadcrumbs that I've learned from amazing leaders, you're a CEO, you're an author of a book, you are a servant leader in and outside of your company. How do you find the time to do all of those things?
Well, I know I drive my wife crazy, but I always like to get up early. Typically, I like to get outside and do some type of run or walk or just get outside. Now, this is going to be really challenging with being laid up, but and but and then a couple of days a week, I work with a trainer too to get stronger. But I have just found that if you keep, as a leader, mind, body, soul, spirit, you've got to be physically, you got to put some strain on your body, and you've
Yeah.
got to bring the energy. That's the only way you'll bring your energy up. Um, I'm a big believer in the whoop. I don't know if you have if you've heard of the whoop, but I measure my HRV every single day, and I look
Mm,
at that number and I just see where I'm at. Did I get enough? Did I get good sleep? Was it quality sleep the night before? And I'm constantly looking at that HRV number to make sure that it's high. Because when I first started, I was 0 to 10, and that typically that number means that I was highly reactive, and I was
wow.
super reactive. So
Yeah.
I've gone from being super reactive to super, I would say, relational. Relations mean much more than being reactive. I catch myself all the time, and I'll stop and say, no, I could be reactive right now, but where's that going to take me? Do I really want to go down that path? Whereas before, I didn't even give it a second thought, and I was highly reactive.
Mm. I love that concept of like, so I'm going to put it in a military lens because
Good.
that's where I
Okay.
was raised. Offensive versus defensive.
Okay.
When we're defensive, we're allowing the environment, the enemy, to affect our decision making. And what we want to do is to get in the mindset of the enemy and affect and shape their decision making so that they act because they're responding to us, not because we're responding to them. We always want to be offensive in a
Yes.
way. And there was something that you shared recently, and I wrote it down because it's one of my favorite proverbs. 4:25 through 16. Let your eyes look directly ahead, and then you wrote towards the path of moral courage, and let your gaze be fixed straight in front of you towards the path of integrity. I love every morning that you connect something, a pillar of yours, faith and mine as well, together, but just you're showing up in the world and you're being the light on the hill. And I love that.
Thanks. And you said something earlier. You've got to surround yourself with great people.
Yeah.
My director of operations, she and I mean, we constantly pray for each other all the time. And I couldn't find anybody else who, I've never worked with anybody else, again, who's so faith filled and that you could share openly about what's happening. We start the day off, we just text each other. How's your day going? I'll pray for you. You pray for me. And at the
Mm,
end, we do an update. Some people do weekly updates, some are, daily updates. We just do it over the
yeah.
phone, or hey, what happened today? What were the highs, the lows? And our number one thing is we have to always end on a positive note. So we go into that evening on a positive note. But it's been the best, like you said, surrounding yourself with just really solid people of morals and core values. That's the key for me too. I can't agree more with you on that too.
I love that, brother. So another thing, kind of before we get right into the book, CEO now for a long time. What is one of the biggest lessons that you've learned, or at least taken away from being a CEO of a successful company?
I really do think under that people first, you've got to find the right people. You got to put them in the right position for success, and then you got to build structure and process around that,
Mm,
and then bring in. You can then facilitate that with technology, so that people, process, and technology. I know that's part of the book, but that has just stuck with me, and it is the truth, because I used to get that so mixed up. I used to think you could solve all your problems through technology.
oh, really?
Um, and every time I hear this AI stuff, I always take a step back. It's going to be good. There's good things, there's bad things about AI, but hey, start with the people first. How is this going to affect our people? How will it benefit our people? What can people learn from this? And don't use the AI. AI is going to affect our people, or AI. Don't lead with AI, because then that's what I keep hearing a lot is they lead with AI and they don't lead with people.
Yeah.
So I heard a term, AI and HI, human. I like the HI term a little bit better, to human intelligence. So
Oh,
HI, but I keep hearing that. But definitely lead with people first before you process of technology.
so I love that. Like one of my focus areas when I was getting my master's degree is human systems integration. And one of the concepts in the military, because that's a beautiful blend of engineering, or like if you want to think of it, of AI, software, and then people. When we develop a product, it's a system of a system, meaning that at the core of whatever we're building is that soldier. That soldier is going to find, fix, and finish our enemies on the battlefield, because at the end of the day, that's what we do. And that piece of equipment needs to enable that person to do their job better. So when I think through the lens of, artificial intelligence and the whole umbrella that kind of falls within that, I look at it as a combat multiplier. It's not the solution. It is a solution to empower our people to, at the end of the day, I guess, to make a better product, and in my line of work, to be more lethal, to make sure that every man and woman who serves comes home to their family.
Mhm. Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
let's start talking about that book. So what
Okay.
is the title of your book, and what inspired you to write it?
Leaders Look Within. And I started, mainly, it was kind of coming out of COVID. I wanted something to do while kind of the world was happening. And I thought, there's not really a good leadership book. There was no book on how to deal with COVID at the time. And I don't think I don't know if there ever will be. But
Yeah.
I started writing it. And I had a friend of mine who owned a self-publishing company, and she said all you need to do is work with a ghostwriter. So I worked with a ghostwriter to organize my thoughts, and I really did need that, to organize my thoughts, because I had about 30 different ideas as far as leadership. And they said through the whole process, don't let anybody read your script till you're all the way done. So I followed that to a T. Then I got all the way done, and I said, okay, is it okay if I have, can my wife Michelle read this? And they said, okay, I think we're at a point that she can read that. She read it and she said, this isn't you. And so I took a month, and I said, I had to think about that. And I went back through every chapter, and I rewrote the book. And what was missing was the faith component. She says, where's your
Mhm.
faith component in here? And I think it was during COVID, I got a little bit scared with all the rioting, and it was a turbulent time, and I
Yeah.
didn't know whether to stick my neck out or not. And I was dealing with some things. One of the things that hit me hard during that was our own chamber here in Omaha came out with a CEOs for code, and there were 10 checkbox items, and they wanted you to check every box to say that you were going to do these things. And I said, hey, look, this diversity, equity, and inclusion is not a checkbox item. You got to figure this out for yourself.
Yeah.
And I'm not checking these boxes because, one, we're not doing it well. Maybe we're not doing these things, but I'm not promising or doing any of these. I got a lot of pressure from members. I got pressure from the city, but I said, this is too big. It's not a checkbox item. I'm so glad I never signed that. And still to
Yeah.
this day, I'll never sign those things because those are not checkbox items. And I think that was part of this leadership look with inside deep with your values. What do you really value? We're making this stuff so complex.
Yeah.
And my book is a pretty simple book. And leadership is really simple when we really get down to the basics. It's about respect for one another. And if we have that in our culture, why do we need all these other things? We're going to actually complicate it or make it more complex than it really needs to be. And so that was really one of the things that, as I wrote the book, is I want something simple. Maybe somebody who reads this, maybe something will resonate, maybe it doesn't, but that's how you got to find it in yourself. That's really my whole point of the book, is find it for yourself. And if you really want it, you can obtain it.
I love the concept of keeping like a simple book, a simple read, especially nowadays, like with just people's attention spans. I feel that long books that are overly complicated. There's a quote by Brene Brown: being clear is being kind, being unclear is being unkind. And I love that. And I always filter everything through my simple infantry brain. Keep it simple, stupid. So KISS. Am I communicating this to the clearest possible way that no matter who reads this book, they can retain this information, and then at the end of the day go apply it? And I love how you brought up, diversity, equity, and inclusion, because I think that diverse teams are the reason why our army, right, and our military is so great, because we are a melting pot, and there's all these different ways of solving problems, but you can't put a metrics on that. And I truly believe that.
Yeah. No, I would say we are more diverse than we've
Yep.
ever been in our history of our company. We
Yep.
have every different type of race, religion, nationality, gender. We have it all, and we're all respectful. That's what
Yep.
it's all about to me. If you don't, and you have to build again, it's hard, but we don't need to complicate it with some checkbox system that
Yeah.
says you do this or
60% here, 40% here. That's
exactly,
organic. And
exactly.
so one of my core values, you and I share that, is respect. My top 3 core values, I call it RID because I'm an acronym mastermind. It's respect, integrity, and duty. If I can
Mhm.
keep those 3 things, no matter where I find myself and whatever leadership role that I'm in, if I continue to embody those 3 things, I'll always be successful and I'll raise up the level of consciousness of people around me. So I love that. I was wondering, can you walk me through some other lessons that you found in this book about how to be an effective leader?
Yeah, I think one of the other big themes is self care. Well,
Mm,
I'll go through the first one. First one, you got to look deep. You got to go back. We talked a little bit about this. See where you are at right now. How did you get to where you are at right now? And see what shaped you. What sticks? What did you learn from? Maybe there's some stuff buried there that you have to deal with.
yeah,
And I had to deal with a few things there. So you deal with that. Then self care. I thought self care was selfish. I honestly really thought that for a long
boom.
time. So you have to take care of yourself. You've got to get strong. You have to make it a point. For me, it's a daily routine. It turned into a daily routine. I have to get up every single day. I have to get stronger. I have to make sure that I get my 30 to 60 minutes of strength conditioning or cardio conditioning, something every single day in order to make sure that I can think at the highest level and bring what I want to do as part of that is bring my A game every single day to work. Because people will see through you. If I come in all flustered or mad or just don't want to talk to anybody, people will see through that and they will see a leader who is not in a good place, and soon they are not in a good place too because they want to be around someone again who's visionary, who they can see that the company they have their concerns as well as the company's concerns and they're moving forward. And I have to bring that every single day, and I do that again through taking care of myself, eating better from diet, exercise, all those things, because I didn't for a long time in the corporate world. I did not take care of myself, and I was highly reactive, and both at work and at home. And it really has helped me so much when you take care of yourself first. Because how can you, if you can't take care of yourself first, how can you take care of others? So
Yeah.
that's really the lesson there in the book.
I love that. One of the core tenets that I've kind of thought about is I see leadership in phases, and it's a cyclical cycle. But the first pillar stays consistent through every phase, and it's self leadership. In order to lead yourself well, lead others well, your family, your community, whatever it is, wherever you find yourself, you have to be clear and present with yourself every single morning, doing the routine things routinely. And I call it RAD, be routine in your actions, be accountable, set up things that'll hold you to that, and then to be disciplined. And if your why is big enough, then it'll demand a response. But being self paying ourselves first is not selfish. And I love how you said that because it's so true. And you shift that paradigm. If I'm spending time for me, I am not being selfish. I am doing it so I can show up in this world as my true, authentic self and be able to tackle the complex problems. Because what I've learned is when you're always reacting, let's say you go to bed at 10 o'clock at night and you wake up at 7:30 and you have to be at work at 8:30 in the morning, you rush to get breakfast, you rush to get a shower, then you show up at work anxious and
Mhm.
stressed. And when someone comes to problems, then you're going to be anxious and stressed and irritated with people versus when I wake up in the morning at 4, I don't want to do it. I really don't. It's just tough, man.
Yeah.
And it doesn't get easier, but I go through the same thing you do of read a book, try to do my prayer every single morning, work out at least an hour and a half every day. And yes, that's tough, but when I'm done with those things, I feel absolutely amazing, and then I show up to work as my true self with that smile on my face, and I'm ready to tackle whatever obstacle comes my way or my team's way. But you have to be okay with that, and you also have to find what routines work with you. I'm wondering if there's any advice that you could kind of help shape of when you found your routine, what was that process like?
It's a good point. Mine was, I learned it through a mastermind,
Mm,
the Sharpen Mastermind, and it was really, I think a lot of it came to, I was journaling, but I wasn't doing in a um, methodical way, or like there was no intention to it.
yeah.
So it really helped me focus. In fact, I have it sitting right here. I have to write an intention for the day. I have to write my top 3 goals. Again, very simple stuff. I even have to write what was I uncomfortable with yesterday, and
Mm,
I really like that one because it takes the power of, yeah, I was really uncomfortable about that. And if you write it down, then you can decide, do I spend more time on this or do I just let it go? Was it really not that important? But I wrote it down, so I took the power out of it. Top goals, what am I grateful for? And where did I win today? I mean, it is just, I have to have that framework. I have to have a book that has those things in it. I try to do it on myself with a blank piece of paper and write it, those things every day. I found that's not me. If I have to
yeah.
fill in, if I have to write it down, I answer the questions. It makes it so much easier. And I'll go back and those things that I was uncomfortable with
Mhm.
2 or 3 weeks ago, a lot of them turned into wins, which is
I love
amazing
that.
when you start to do that.
That is a phenomenal point, and just to dive in that word uncomfortable. I genuinely believe this. When we put ourselves in situations that force us to be uncomfortable, that's where growth happens. Yeah, I had the CEO of Mission Six, Jason Van Camp, on not too long ago. He's a retired Green Beret, and the concept of deliberate discomfort. When we put ourselves in discomfort, then we are stretching ourselves. But the key is to stretch ourselves within our capacity. Because I think a lot of times when we put ourselves in an uncomfortable situation, we stretch ourselves too much and then we just get burnt out. It's doing it within the measure that we can grow to it, but not to the point of where we're going to break. And I love that.
Mhm.
Another kind of topic I would like to maybe go through, if you cover it in your book, of emotional intelligence when it applies to leadership, how to be a more empathetic leader, or potentially even like understanding the emotions of your team members.
Yeah, no. Actually, people laugh at me now in meetings because let's say you walk into a meeting and somebody in the meeting says, "Hey, I think everyone in here deserves a 30% uh, increase in salary."
Yeah.
If my reactive self would have said, "What the heck? What's going on here?" I would have
No.
reacted that way. Today, I take a deep breath and they laugh at me. They can actually physically see me taking a deep breath, and I'll just say, "Okay, where's this coming from? What's going on?" I take 2 seconds to control and to say, "Okay, there's some aware." I've built enough awareness to say, "Okay, there's a reason somebody's asking for this."
Mm,
Could be that question, or it could be something. Yeah, I kind of use the extreme, but it really does help me. And people will say, or somebody will say something, they'll see me they'll see me sigh, or they'll see me take a deep breath because they know I'm a processor,
yeah.
and they know that processing what is being said, and I want to come. I'm thinking about what I'm going to say, versus getting ready to spew back whatever somebody says, and I got a response back for that. I really want
Mm,
to take in and think, why, where's this? I'm trying to do this in 2 or 3 seconds. Where is this coming from, or what's really happening here, or is this person 9 times out of 10, maybe the person's just not feeling good too. You just, or something happened personally, and it's amazing. I think, and maybe you've. I used to believe this was a bunch of um, hooey or fooey, whatever you want to call it, but you can feel the energy in the room when you're
100%.
this is big. And when you walk in, I can definitely see and sit down and say, okay, I'll look at somebody, I'll say, is everything going okay? How is your day, or how's your day going? I try not to be too specific, but you can just tell something's off. And I couldn't even fathom thinking that way for a
Yeah.
long time. So feeling the energy in the room it's really big, and it really helps direct where that conversation and what that discussion is going to look like. And it really sets the tone.
I absolutely love that, and you are spot on. That you can feel the emotions of a room, and I always go back to this one moment in my life because it was crystal clear. Right before a very large firefight that we got in Afghanistan. When you're in a village, your children are playing, people are tending to chores, their crops, things of that. But, right before a firefight kicks off, typically it's like the Wild West, all the doors shut and everything goes away. Only the tumbleweeds are out blowing. It's like a staleness overtakes you in the air. What was fresh before now just feels stale. And I think that's true in the business world or in the leadership world too, is that we have to be able to pick up on those emotional whispers with individuals. And I think it's being okay to be vulnerable and kind of tapping into that empathetic leadership style of not a sympathetic leadership style, feeling sorry for people, but
Hmm.
empathetic, being able to connect to those emotions and being able to help them overcome those emotions. And that's one of the hardest things that I've seen, at least in the military, with a very alpha driven type of leadership style. Is what separates great from extraordinary leaders is their ability to set up the environment that is conducive for whatever job that they're trying to perform. That emotional intelligence is awesome. And I love how you develop that tactical patience. I call it kind of like a stop. So silence your mind, take a tactical pause, observe your surroundings, and then pursue a purpose. I love that concept of like when we find ourselves in a stressful situation, just breathe. Just take a
Hmm.
moment to before you say something that maybe you shouldn't say. And I wish I could go back to my younger self and tell young, first, second lieutenant McMillian to do those things, and maybe I wouldn't have got in trouble. But yeah, I love that, brother.
Yeah. I had to write that down because next time somebody asks me, "Is everything okay?" I'm going to say, "I'm using my tactical patience right now." I'm going to use that. I'm going to use that term. I love that term
Oh,
because, yeah, it is. There is something real to that. Absolutely real to it. And I don't know about you, but I did not grow up around really great leaders. I don't think in my corporate world, I was around a lot of super reactive people all the
yeah,
time. And I
yeah.
just didn't know. I'd walk into a meeting, you just don't know what was going to hit you. And I was always on the defensive, as you said earlier. I know it's like, oh, how do I react now to that? Goodness.
It's funny me thinking about this too, like my journey. My father was a pillar, and I still go back to him now of like how much he sacrificed for our family and how great of a man he is today. He is the I wish that at the end of the day, end of my journey, that I am half the man that he is, because he is a phenomenal human being, and I really mean that. But outside of that, a lot of the coaches that I had and mentors that I had were not the best. One of the mentors that I looked up so profoundly quit, our coaching our team and went to another county. There, I didn't really have a role model kind of growing up until I got into the military, and then I was surrounded by just truly inspiring leaders. I've had a couple bad ones, a couple average ones,
Mhm.
but the majority of them we're all great leaders, and I think that's with any organization. But before we kind of transition to where you're wanting to go, is there any other thing within your book that you would want to share?
I think the last part I would probably add is waking up with a heart of gratitude.
Mm,
Every day I wake up with, I can take my breath. Um, I I am so blessed to be in the place I am today with everything going on. Our family is taken care of, my dad's still living. His needs are being taken care of. But I just think I go through my whole list of family and friends and life in general and just say, yeah, it's a good day to be alive. And it's a good day. I'm so grateful for everything that's been given to me. Let's take this and move it forward
yeah,
throughout the day.
I love that, man. And again, it goes back to the whole quote. Matthew chapter 5, 13 through 16, talking about being the salt of the earth and the light of the world. And you are doing those two things. You are the salt and you are the light, and you're continuing to bring it into not only your business but into this world. So thank you for that. So kind of moving forward, where do you see yourself in the next 5, years? Where do you want to continue to grow with purpose?
Yeah. Well, I want to build on my father's legacy. That's huge for me. Um, it's kind of funny you would bring this up. Uh, at 58, I have to really. I think about my father, and he really, the term succession plan really was just not. It
Mm,
brought just a lot of triggers to him. I think on that
yeah,
side. And as well as it did for me, didn't even want to think about that. But I'm at a point now, I need to think about, to your point, what's the next 5, 10 years look like as a vision? And I
yeah,
get excited now to think about that, because I think employees get very excited if they know in the next 5 to 10 years, this is
yeah,
where the company's going. That's an exciting thing. This is what we want to strive for and drive to. Because I have no plans of selling the business. I wanted to keep it in the family as long as we can. Um, there's always going to be challenges, but if you keep true to the vision, you'll find a way to make it work. I think the benefits was a good reminder for me. Hey, we have rich benefits. Let's keep them. Let's not throw in the towel. The world tells us to throw in the towel. Costs are out of hand. You just got to turn it over to the employees. No, let's find a way. There's got to be something here we can keep this benefits package in place and keep our true benefits, because that's the core of who we are. Why would we throw that away based on what's happening today in the world? So I really like the future, the 5 to 10 years. I could see myself writing another book. In the first book, I left out family on purpose because I didn't know how it was going to really come to be it. But family is so important. So my next
mhm.
book, absolutely leadership. Family is a part of who you are as a leader. So I will write another book and build on the key concepts that I have here. And I'm just starting to kind of put the outline together for that as well.
I think you're absolutely spot on, is that family is one of those pillars within leadership or growth of wherever we are, because everyone has a family. There are people in our lives who love us. Maybe it's not like the normal definition of a family of where, I'm married and I have 2 beautiful children. Maybe it's not that, but you have a family. We all have a family who loves us. And that inspires me, is that you're continuing to grow. You have that thirst for knowledge, just to be a better version of yourself. And I would love, right before we get to the last show segment, what advice would you give someone who is just getting ready to start in their leadership role?
I really try to find out who you are and what you value. I know it
Mm,
sounds really simple, but it does take some work. And
yeah,
sometimes, like me, you'll learn I needed help there. I remember sitting with another person for 3 hours trying to define my why, and I couldn't do it in 3 hours because I had a person willing to challenge me enough to really tell you, is that really your why? Is that really what you're here? Or is that, and after that 3 hour session, I really worked hard to figure out, and I worked with a coach to figure out what's deep inside. What do you truly value the most? And
yeah.
then bring it. Because when you can live it, you know it, and then you can live it. That's your true self. That's who you are as a leader.
I love that, brother. That's spot on advice. All right, so final show segment. I call it
Okay.
the killer bees. So be brief, be brilliant, be present, be gone. Same 4 questions that I ask everyone on the Tells of Leadership podcast. If you're ready, we'll jump right into it.
Okay.
So, what do you believe separates a good leader from a great leader?
What's in their heart? Absolutely, what's in their heart. If they're too much of the mind stuff, they're going to rationalize. They're going to change their. It'll be different day to day. But what's in your heart usually stays true. You stay true to what's in your heart.
I love that. All right, question two. What is one resource that you could recommend to our listeners?
One resource. Gosh, there's several resources out there. I used to not be a big believer in these personality tests and
Yeah,
things like that. Your strengths, start somewhere. Start finding out. Start identifying who you think you are. You may not agree with it at first, but at least you'll have some information, some data. I'm a data person too. You have some data that you can start to build off of, and it'll give you the tools there to build from. So meet with somebody, find out, even if it's Myers-Briggs, maybe it's Gallup
Yep.
Strengths. Gallup Strengths is one you can do at your house. You can do it online yourself. Just find out what your strengths are.
Spot on. And I use that within myself, but also in the teams that I lead.
You can
I
probably
actually,
guess my number one is belief for strengths. So I mean, absolutely. So
mine is competition. If you,
yeah, there you
I can't
go.
help it. Yeah. Anything that I do, I always like strive to be the best at. That's a downfall and a strength at the same time.
Yeah.
So, question 3: if you could give your younger self a piece of advice, what would it be?
My younger self. This one's hard for me because I don't like to go back in history, but
Mm,
my younger self, just continue to learn and grow on the journey. Continue to look forward. That's what I would tell my younger self. Don't get stuck. It's too
yeah,
easy to get stuck for a long time. I'm sure I was stuck for a long time in certain periods of my life. Get out, go, got to keep going. The next day, today, you got to live for today and into the future. So be in the present and look to the future.
I love that, brother. Last question. How can anyone who listens to this episode, if they want to reach out to you or add value to you or even find your book, how can they do that?
Yeah, on LinkedIn, absolutely. You can find me. CEOofyourheart.com is my website right now. Um, and if you want my book, probably the easiest way, go to Amazon and just search for my name. There's not too many
Mhm.
Brent Pullmans out there on Amazon, so you'll find it right away. Uh, but Joshua, no, thanks. Thank you again for letting me be on your show today.
Yeah, Brent, it's been an honor and a privilege. I know it's taken a while to actually make this happen, and I'm glad that it did. You are a phenomenal leader. Like I said before, you're the salt and the light. Continue to inspire, and I continue to love watching you every single day on LinkedIn. Post your inspirational videos.
Thank you so much.
Have a good day, brother.
Okay.